Don't forget your got it buttons.
Oh, okay, hold on.
You're fine if you're locked. If your screen's locked, I can hear you
Like,
just
I'm
fine.
locked.
All right, we are good to go, folks. So all I need to do is go start the recording on the computer because that's very important.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, folks, and we are ready to go for episode 187 of the iACast. Y'all ready?
Ready?
Yeah.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 187 of the iACast. All right, I'm here this week with two wonderful folks. We have Taylor Arndt,
Hello, everyone.
and we have Lynn Snyder.
Hey, everybody. So glad to be back.
Yes, we're glad to have you back, and Taylor, we're glad to have you back too.
Thank
This,
you.
I have a feeling might be a longer episode, so if you're in the audience, get some snacks, get some
That's
drinks, get some great lounging, seats. Just don't fall asleep, or
right.
if you do, we will have periodic times where we'll try to wake you up during the podcast
Yes, that's right.
Yep.
because we have a good show for you all this time. Really excited about all of these topics. And gosh, I got so busy last time. I intended, you know, you know what we say about intentions
Mm-hmm.
and being good and what road they pave. Uh,
Yes.
um, I had intended to post it throughout the week. All of episode 186's stories and things. So I'm gonna try to get to that this week. It's gonna be a very busy week again. But we had this thing come up, after the last podcast. This little thing called convention.
Mm-hmm.
Little.
Uh,
Really, Michael?
yeah, just a little, short, 6 days.
Right. Pretty much the entire
So
week.
yeah, an entire week. Just a little convention. It's not like those state conventions that are so long, being 3 days,
Mm-hmm.
and have such long agendas. No. Um Comparatively, the state conventions have such short agendas, which is great
Yeah, it
because
is.
of what I do with Way Around and putting conventions on tags and all those kind of stuff. And I'll get to that in just a little bit.
Yeah,
But
you have a story to tell about way
oh,
around
yes, I
tags.
do. Yes, I
Yes.
do. We have
MIA.
loads of. Ye- well, can you remind me? I'm not exactly sure what you mean on
I
that
wasn't
one.
even. Yeah.
Oh
you
no,
were.
I thought that they went missing on you. Was that somebody else?
No, we had a few items at our booth go missing, but
Okay.
our
Yeah.
tags
Uh-oh.
didn't.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I'll get to that. I'll get to all of that later. It's just a teaser, folks. Just a teaser. So I need to make sure that I keep. As usual, we're live on YouTube. So if you want to, remember every week we go live on YouTube. So come chat with us. Let us know your thoughts.
Absolutely. Ideas, suggestions,
Yep.
no
What you want to
complaints. We
see.
don't want those though.
Right.
Right. All
Just kidding.
positivity here, folks.
Well, we want to know your feedback. So if you like,
Right.
okay,
Absolutely.
that Michael guy he just needs to go,
Yeah, we want to find out. Or if I'm just causing a bunch of trouble, let's find out.
Yep. Although the cool thing is, if somebody says that Michael guy just needs to go, there's technically two Michaels that
Two
come on the show,
Michaels.
so it could be anybody.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
So you might want to be specific if you're like that Michael guy needs to go. Which one? There's two. Everybody else is just one of, but just two Michaels, which is funny. I'm very happy that I've become a regular on the Tuesday unmute call for AC with the ACB community. That's fantastic. I love answering questions with Michael and Marty, and so it's exciting that they will be back coming up, I believe, this week, but I'm not sure. So if you're not, check out acb.community to find out more. Um, as for our news, we always do news, and this was just the introduction. So if you're listening to the going by chapters, have fun. This one, you can definitely skip our long introduction by using chapters. But we have our news segment now, and we've got some great, interesting, and troublesome stories to talk to you all about. There's been some, while it's on my mind, there's been some interesting chat GPT developments. And I have a story, and Lynn has a story about chat GPT. So Lynn, do you want to go ahead and tell people what you threw at me yesterday that just threw me off my chair almost?
Right. So if you look at the Chat GPT, if you haven't looked at the updates in your Apple or your podcast, wherever you're getting your podcasts, but Chat GPT, I should say OpenAI, has taken Bing out of the search, the web search option. They have taken the web search option out of their service. If you had GPT Plus, you were able to do some fact checking and some web, things with your searches. And they have suspended that, they say, for now. Apparently it was just a beta feature anyway, but they said that in the official explanation, when you're trying to update that app, you'll see it'll say that it's been suspended because they didn't like the way that some of the outputs were being generated. I have done some further research on this, and it appears that what was happening is that the web sort of component of it was actually scraping paywalled content.
Oh,
Yeah, it was able to access paywalled content, and of course that would be a huge lawsuit in the making. So, once they realized that, that's when they put the kibosh on the chat, the web part of it. Personally, I have unsubscribed from the Plus version. I think that there are many things, and this is Lynn's rant for today. When I first started using ChatGPT, I loved it. I would be on there all the time. I am a creative person, so I really enjoy creating stories and other things with the ChatGPT and with the models. First of all, the guardrails have become so ridiculous. And if you don't know what guardrails are, they're basically rules of behavior that the creators of the chatbot part of it are, put engaging. So it's gotten to the point now where I just consider it neutered. It is so dull, and its responses are just not very nuanced or creative. It's every time you type something in there, you get a thing back that says, well, I'm a large language model, and I can't do this and I can't do that for whatever reason. So it really started to get on my nerves. One of the things about the GPT Plus was that you would have access to the Model 4. I'm trying to think of the name that they call it. GPT-4. And that's great, yes. But of course, you get that free on Bing. You've had it free on Bing for a long time. But also it's slow. A lot of times I would get half outputs. It just was really, I would kind of ask myself, like, what am I paying for? I think the guardrails are a serious problem because they have just gotten so, I don't want to say barbaric. That's not the word I want. So limiting that it's just ridiculous. And I saw an article where the traffic to the Chat GPT site itself is going way down, and people have made assumptions like maybe it's because kids are not using it for the summer. People aren't using it for the summer, and that may be, but I just think there are a lot of problems with it. And for me, the guardrails are a serious issue. So it's a shame because I used to love it. It's just,
Yeah.
and I think that right now it is being watched so much by everybody, by regulators, by the media. Chat GPT just gets all kind of bad press. And so I think,
Right.
and they have some lawsuits pending as well from people who say that it was trained on data that was, copyrighted and scraped. And what I don't know is why Bing isn't suffering the same sorts of lawsuits. Because Bing, well, the one thing is that Bing does give you it does give you web
Right. It basically does
resource.
the same
Sources.
thing.
Yeah.
Right. It
Yeah.
shows you where it got things, which I think
Mhm.
is a good thing. And one of the Bing updates is going to be that you can use it without getting the web updates or the web links, which is good because if you're just asking it to write a story, you really don't need it to search the web. But
See,
I think,
I'm waiting for them to make it to where you could use Bing search without needing the Bing app. That will be fantastic. I
oh,
don't know if
right.
that's going to happen, but
Or the Edge app.
or Edge
Or Edge,
browser.
Edge
You
is a
know.
pain in the butt, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's true. And the Bing app is not exactly the easiest app to use.
Right.
Although I have gotten much better with it, and there are advertisements. So I don't know. I just think it's a shame, and I hope that things get better. If they get the web search back, I might consider going back to it with the GPT plus. But until then, it's been neutered. It's just it's unfortunate what's happening.
Yeah, I feel like that they're making a lot of changes with this, and it's not necessarily a good thing. The the one thing that I'm not a fan of is that there is so much regulation. I
Mhm.
think that we're kind of moving backwards instead of forwards because people are so afraid of a tool. Now, granted, there are some people doing some crazy, scary stuff with GPT-4, right? And GPT-5 has the potential to be even more crazy. The issue is, though, we're running into an arms race of AI, and this has been talked about in novels and things like that, and it's very, very scary because others are going to be making these AIs, and they're going to run rampant and do things. So we just need to keep up, and I think we're going to eventually have malware AIs, and we're going to have anti-malware AIs, and they'll
Interesting.
be in a race to fight each other and become more superior. It's going to happen, folks. It's not like we can put this genie back in the bottle here. Um, but what concerns me is all these people wanting regulations on all this stuff. You can't
Right.
put it back. It's already
And
started. We can't put it back.
I think that Michael made a great point about people who will be using uh, unlicensed, I don't know what you would unregulated chatbots
Mm-hmm.
to do whatever kind of thing they want to do. There are open source options out there that have no guardrails.
Right. And
And
the scary thing about OpenAI's chatbot that's already happening is that chatbots, especially ChatGPT and GPT-4, have a new function. and this is the story I had that I heard from a YouTube channel that I follow a lot, Fireship,
Mhm.
and that is basically ChatGPT can now execute and evaluate the execution of code.
Code. Yes.
Wow. Seriously?
Yes.
So you could say, I need you to write me code that can do, print hello world in 10 different colors. And it will write the code, get it wrong, write the code again, get it wrong again, write the code again until it gets it right.
Wait, are you kidding me, Michael?
No, that's
No,
a thing
no,
now.
that I saw that. I just saw that this morning.
I also
Wow.
saw something where I don't know if this is in the plus version, but you can now upload files to ChatGPT.
That is in the
I haven't,
plugins. Or is that different now?
I don't know.
Mhm.
But it is now where you can upload files to ChatGPT and have it look through information, including images.
Right.
So I don't know. I have not tried this personally, but this is what I've heard on a YouTube video this morning while I was dozing because I'm still recuperating from convention.
Yes.
But if that's the case, then we're looking at, um, a lot of the things that you could do with, um, Be My Eyes, and we'll talk about that in just, I guess we'll talk about that next
Mhm.
because that's
Mhm.
kind of Chat GPT and GPT-4, but it kind of is leveling the playing field. And, we got an announcement from Be My Eyes at convention where they're calling it, instead of be a virtual volunteer, they're calling it Be My AI.
Oh, and I hate that. I just think that
I it
sounds really
Yeah,
silly. I mean,
I don't know that I care for it either.
no.
I do think they should not call it virtual volunteer because it's not a volunteer. It doesn't have the same quality as a real life person,
Right.
but it is pretty neat. I heard a demo at NFB. It was pretty cool.
Mhm.
Um so
It's
Go
still
ahead.
in beta though, right? Because I know
It is.
I'm on a list, and I have
Yes,
been
we're
on a
all on a
list
wait
for
list.
months, a
Right.
wait list. So I know I keep hearing about this, and I would love to see it in action, but I'm still waiting on the list. So
They're still saying it will come out later this year.
mhm, mhm. And is
So
that using what is that using? Is that using Bing?
GPT-4.
Oh, is it okay? The it's using the actual GPT, Chat
Mhm.
GPT, Open
Well, it's using
AI.
Yes, and Bing
Okay,
is using GPT-4.
right,
So all the very advanced stuff is using GPT-4.
right,
Interesting.
yeah,
Yep. So I find it very interesting. I think what they're trying to do is figure out what guardrails to put for Be My AI, I guess
mhm,
we're gonna call
mhm,
it. So that's why it's taking them so long, is to figure out what guardrails. And I kind of have a problem with that because people cannot differentiate between AI and what's not. Now, at the same time, if it's saying, we AI has hallucinations. It says this is right, even though it's
mhm,
wrong,
mhm, mhm.
and people don't fact check. But I think, it's good to say, for the AI to say, I think this is this medication, but you may want to have somebody else give a check, like
Right,
to make sure that this is the case, because I feel like if we just don't allow these features to work and we just say, you need to use something else, we're not giving it the chance to really expand. And
right,
that's my view of AI is I think we're regulating it before we see the drawbacks.
right.
I
And
agree.
it's sort of like an overzealous monitor, right?
Mhm.
Overzealous moderator, so to speak.
Yes.
I mean, how do we agree on these rules? For example, what happens if I show the say a piece of like pornography and I ask it to describe it? You know,
Right.
how do we agree? Does anybody agree on what pornography is?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Right.
in other words, I guess, you know, the guardrails are important. I mean, there are certain things that I guess we can all agree are not a good idea.
Right.
But I think that when we start, I guess my question is, who is making these guardrails and how are we deciding,
What's right and what's
you know,
not.
who is making these decisions? And,
Right.
you know, it sort of makes me a little bit nervous. And I think
Mm-hmm.
the most dangerous thing is to have people using these, you know, AI systems that have no guardrails, or either that, or, you know, just people being able to get around guardrails, the people that will, I mean, I think the bad actors always know how to get around the
Oh yeah.
rules.
Oh yeah.
And prompting can get around rules just as
Sure.
programming can. So
Yeah.
um so I think we need to go ahead and move on to, because we still got a lot to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Um and I want to talk about something that I've been very interested in. I've posted a lot about it on 3 different platforms. And that is Meta's new app,
Oh, yes.
Threads.
Oh yeah.
Threads.
Mhm.
The app by Instagram that is supposed to compete with Twitter.
Mhm.
Threads is for iPhone, so iOS, not iPad OS. It will work, but it has to be a iPhone window. So if you're going to use it on the iPad, switch to Stage Manager. That makes it work really well. Just a little pro tip.
Mhm.
It does work with the keyboard, so no worries there. And it works on Android. Now, 3 platforms, but there's no web or app support on PC or Mac. But that's the same as Instagram as well. That app doesn't work in those places either, right? So it's a great app because it lets people connect that are using Instagram, and it's text-based, kind of like Twitter. I don't know the character limit, but the neat thing is, in around October, it's going to integrate with Mastodon. And that's going to give Mastodon another 30 to 50 million users,
Mhm.
which is going to bog down the servers for quite a while all of that gets migrated. But what are y'all's thoughts of all this? What are y'all thinking? Because there's accessibility issues, like no
A
alt
lot of
text
them.
support. Yeah, there's no voiceover.
No
Goes from
captions.
no captions. Voiceover goes um, text item to item. No voiceover actions, and even magnification. The text is pretty small. No dark mode. No text size adjustment. Nothing. So, what are y'all's initial thoughts of this platform so far?
I'm waiting for regulators to step in because, I mean, think about it. Meta has Facebook, it has, what do you call it? The chat, the
WhatsApp,
Message.
WhatsApp,
Yeah.
it has
Messenger.
Messenger.
Messenger, Instagram, and now this. I just feel like the regulators, especially in the EU, are probably going to be like itching to put the kibosh on this one. But okay, so I I saw a post on David Goldfield's list, where he was talking, somebody was saying that people are saying that threads that talk about accessibility issues are being censored.
Very
By,
interesting.
so I don't know if that's true. Somebody had written something about talking about the problems with, you know, the new Threads app, and apparently it was taken down, or it was something happened, and this is something that has really got people kind of upset because I mean, I don't think that Facebook has ever been super accessible.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's definitely not the worst app, but it's not the best either. So, I think that's disturbing to think that there might be some censoring of threads that are giving a more negative opinion on the app. And I know it's an early version of the app, but I really hope that this post from on David's list is somehow wrong, because I would not want to think that, threads that try to discuss these issues are maybe being censored by the platform. So I'm hoping
Well,
there's just a misunderstanding there or something.
it makes me wonder, because I haven't read the post. I haven't seen it. I'm not sure who
Me
wrote it.
either.
Mhm, mhm.
Oops. I broke my audio. Hang on. There we go. 3, 2, 1.
Mhm,
So I I don't know who wrote the post. They could have done, said anything. They could have, just been, I don't know.
mhm.
I don't know who wrote it. But I wrote a long post, and I've mentioned the account that, the Threads app account. They haven't responded to me, but my post is still live. And I went through
Yeah,
all the accessibility problems that I could find in the app.
right. So that's
And
why
that,
I'm wondering if there's not more
hmm
to the story than we're getting. I just
right.
can't imagine
Right.
that they would censor that Meta would do that. I'm
I
not
can't
saying
imagine that either.
no, that I don't know.
Again, it comes down to what was the tone of the message,
Right.
how was it written, and I guess there's several things to that. So Threads has a long way to go, but I'm here for it. I like Threads because a lot of the people I follow in the tech industry are there, and they're not on Mastodon. And that means that even though they're not on Mastodon, when Threads opens up to the Fediverse, they will be there. And that is fantastic. That is what I'm really there for. And, they have 50 million signups. And I'm pretty excited because I got in within the first less than 1 million signups. So my Threads sign up number is in the 100,000s, not millions.
Right. That's pretty neat.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Like, what is your number, Michael?
I'm not sure. Let's see if I can open the Instagram app and find out. Because a little tip, if you are in Threads, if you're using the platform, it will show you your number. Wow.
Yeah.
496,364.
Okay.
You're actually in the
Wow.
first 500,000.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's well
Jeez.
500,000.
Yeah. That's how you know I'm a techie if I got in that early.
Yep.
Because I'm sure there are people that got early access and things like that, right? So as soon as I heard that it was live, I was at the NFB conference Wednesday night, and I just went and got the app as soon as I could and signed in. So that's pretty neat to be in the first 500,000 users
Yeah,
of
that
Threads.
was
That's
wow.
pretty cool.
Because it has how many users now? It like exploded. Like it
I've
just
heard
absolutely
over around
exploded.
50 million.
Hmm.
But
Wow.
Meta or Instagram has 2 billion users. Think about that.
Hmm.
2 billion users. Now, if you consider Twitter at its height had 300 million, right? You're looking at the ability for Instagram and Instagram threads to really catch up to that. And it's interesting. I think if Meta had to separate, because of antitrust, the Instagram would be fine. You know, Instagram and Instagram threads would go off. WhatsApp would have to go off. Facebook Messenger would go off, and Oculus would have to go off. And they could just split up those organizations like that. And I think a lot of companies are doing that so that if they do get hit with antitrust, they could just be like, okay, you go here, you go here, you go here. Right. So, and it's very interesting how we're seeing that siloed nature of this stuff. I don't know that we see that as much from Apple, but
No.
it's very interesting to see, because if you look at Threads, Instagram doesn't have an iPad app. It doesn't have it has desktop and web, like web browser integrations now, like where you can log in. But Threads looks very much like an Instagram app, although I will say it looks pretty boring. Like very monochromatic, black and white, not very colorful except for images people post. And on Android tablets, it just looks abysmal.
Wow.
Wow.
Look, I just have a question about like why Zuck decided to do this. Like, what was his motivation for doing this? I wonder. Like, does he feel
was-
like people are yearning for a Twitter replacement and he
Yes,
sort of
they
stepped
want a new
into that
town
void?
square.
Right.
They want a new town square.
Mm-hmm.
And, with Twitter's rate limits that they've put into place, which were said to be temporary, but I think they're still in place. There needed to be something.
Right. And
But
I think as Twitter users, there was always an unpleasant surprise right down the, every day it seemed like more limitations and more craziness that changes. And I do think we need a town square. And
right.
Twitter, we used to serve that role. With all the criticisms that I have had of Twitter, I used it. I've been on it for years and years. And I'm interested in meteorology. And Michael and I and Taylor were having a conversation yesterday. We're talking about how so many people were on Twitter. And so information could be passed so much easier. You could reach a ton of people with Twitter.
Right.
And it I don't know. We sort of miss that now. Like, and
right.
Mastodon, as much as I love it, it's too technical. People to set up. Most normies, I don't know how to say that, but most average people are not going to sit and decide which instant to pick and, this and that. And they're like, what is an instance? And they don't want to go through all that stuff. And so,
the neat thing with Threads is threads.net is their instance. Because when you log into Threads, it actually just it shows my name, Mike Doey's, I'm everywhere. It doesn't show @ but it says Mike Doey's, and then right next to it, threads.net. So that's how you know what to tell people. And in fact, you could go to threads.net / @Mike Doey's, just like a Mastodon username, and you're at my username on the web.
So you think they will turn on ActivityPub?
Oh, they've already said they will.
Okay. And then you were talking about that being a possible threat to the smaller Mastodon servers, right?
It will be a very large amount of data coming in. So some of these servers may have difficulties in keeping up with the bandwidth of threads. So since there's 50 million users, it will be a lot more coming into the Fediverse, because right now there's about 12 or 13 million accounts in the Fediverse. And when we get a large influx, when Elon does something stupid at Twitter, we get a large influx, and that slows down a lot of instances for a while. Well, that's going to happen again when Threads turns online, but on a magnified scale. So that's going to be pretty interesting to see how we all, as Mastodon server instance user managers, how we deal with that.
Will it affect you, Michael?
Yes, it will.
But you don't have a huge instance.
Well, that's the point. Like, the
That's
bigger the
yeah.
instances, the better they can scale with the influx of bandwidth.
Ah.
Yeah. So the
But if
smaller
you're not on
instances,
your instance, how's that gonna affect you? Like, I'm just trying to
well,
understand.
Because you're
say
going to have an
say
influx of data and you might
mhm,
not have the capacity
Mm.
to handle
mhm.
it, right?
Say I go and follow 20 to 30 people on threads.net, then I'm getting federated data from threads.net.
Oh, I see.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yep.
That's gonna be a
So,
problem for you.
yeah, we're going to have to figure out what we're going to do, but I think it won't be. I think it will last for a little bit, and then once we get things cached, it won't be so bad. I'm hoping. That's my hope.
Mhm.
You have to like
Because,
upgrade to like a bigger plan and then go down.
Potentially we'll have to see.
but
But
also, I think that the wild card here is, you know, are people going to stick with it? Like I saw an article where a lot of people are feeling social media fatigue. People are just feeling like, gosh, I have this and that, and there's not enough time in a day. People are going back to
mhm.
work. Like the question would be, even though a lot of people are moving over to this service, how are they going to actually post?
Well, right, and that's kind of the big thing anywhere these days is where is people going to settle? Where will
Right.
that time be? And
Mhm.
we don't know.
No.
This is kind of the wild, wild west of social
Mhm.
media right now.
Mhm.
We're all exploring and figuring out where we want to be. But what I think is going to be great is now that we're seeing all of these social threads, Blue Sky, Mastodon, all of these things talking to each other, we're going to see a new time where it doesn't matter where you are,
Mhm.
you will just be able to talk to anybody. Because I can tell you, once Threads turns on ActivityPub, I'm just going to take my contact list I have there and just move that thing over to techopolis.social.
Mhm. Yeah, you just wonder like what kind of restrictions Threads is going to put on that interoperability, because you wouldn't think from a business sense, how would the advertising is what keeps these things alive. So,
Well, they're going to put ads, and they already are using an algorithm. So even though it's going to be similar to the Fediverse, you're getting algorithmic recommendations of people to follow on Threads.
Interesting.
mhm. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
downloaded
So,
it, but I was having trouble signing it. So
Right. And like during, like, a good example is during hurricane season, I used to
mm-hmm.
follow a lot of meteorologists and people, weather nerds, I guess you could say. And I loved it because there was a huge list of experts, people I really respected, and I was able to uh, sort of tap into that when we would have, or even a disaster, a national. Um, we know that, for example, Twitter is oftentimes, or used to be, helpful when there would be a disaster, to help communities connect or help people connect with other people. And so, yeah, it was the town square, and
Right.
it would be nice if you could do that. Again, how would they? For example, how do we know how many of those users are real and how many are bots? Are they able to separate? I guess Meta has more controls on that
They
kind of
do.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
So, yeah, it's
I'm
interesting.
I'm enjoying Threads. I'm gonna keep with it. I have 18 followers, which in the first week. So and believe it or not, I have followers from my Facebook that have used Instagram that have never used Twitter. They've never used Mastodon. So it's kind of neat. And I'm kind of looking at it as a way to bridge the gap between all of our I feel like we have different silos.
Silos, yeah. Yep, yep.
Yeah, I was trying to make that TV show reference go out a little further, but I can't do it. So, which I finished the third book, by the way, and it's good.
I'm still
And
working on it. I was reading it when you told me to come on the podcast. So
it's good.
I felt a
Anyway,
little bit like, okay.
and it's, we have these social media network silos with the same people on all the same networks. So
Mhm.
wouldn't it be great if we can just bring those together? And I think that's where we're headed. So it's pretty exciting.
Right, I think I've heard people complaining already that there is some moderation on,
Mm-hmm.
threads that some people don't like.
Yeah.
And that would probably be something that Meta would do just to keep itself out of trouble, right? I
Oh,
mean,
for sure.
you know what I mean?
For
Like,
sure. Mm-hmm.
so,
And there's already a lawsuit. Elon is suing
oh
Meta
yeah.
because of Threads,
Mhm.
saying that they took intellectual property
Property.
and that they took Twitter employees, which
Mm.
Meta said, we're not using any Twitter employees for this. And what I really find very funny about all of that is the fact that Blue Sky is very similar. Mastodon's been around since 2017, and Threads is based off really the same techniques that they use, not really based on Twitter. So it's kind of funny that
Right,
Elon is
right.
getting upset, considering all of this stuff is being done before.
And what's gonna happen to Blue Sky, do you think, with this? I mean, do you think
So
that Blue Sky
it's going to be federated. It's
Mm.
going to be, using the AT protocol. I think activity timeline is what that stands for. I could be wrong. I'm like an AI. You better fact check me. Uh, but either way, I know it's called the AT protocol,
Mhm.
and it's similar to Activity Pub, and Threads is supposed to talk to it as well. So it's going to bring all of those communities together, and I'm here for it. I'm really here for any of that stuff. If they could fix some accessibility issues, that would be great. Um, so
Time will tell. We live in interesting times right now, don't we?
mm-hmm, we do.
And it's
And
gonna
then
be interesting to see how all this plays out,
right.
you know?
And then, Twitter, we had the rate limits and all those things since we've done the podcast. 6,000 for verified users, 600 for regular standard non-paying users. I think it's 300 or 30, very small number a
Right.
day for new users.
Yeah.
And no Twitter access for people that have not signed up, which I think is
Mhm.
crazy.
Yeah, I sometimes think that Elon is like actually trying to kill Twitter. I mean, some of the things
Oh
that we're
God.
seeing is like for some reason it just feels like it's not that happy shiny place, that open,
Mm-hmm.
welcome here. It
It
just
kind of
doesn't
feels like that. Kind of feels like that mall that the gangs start to hang out in now, and like the stores
Yeah,
are leaving, and
right, right.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
I still have to hang out at Twitter, but
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
because accountants
And I
don't
mean,
know, they don't want to move.
there's still a lot of technology people that are there, and that's why I'm there. So there's still a good
Right.
group. There's still those groups that are there.
Oh yeah,
So
there are
it's not
quite a
like
few. Yeah.
so it's not like Twitter's completely gone,
Hmm.
but I think it's something where people are looking at like, okay, is this where I want to be?
Hmm.
But for the non-technology people, they're still there.
Some are. It just depends on the culture and the group, right? A lot of non-technology people have left too because of discrimination, of intolerance, and things like that. So,
Yeah.
and we'll get into Twitter a little more in the podcast, but we have to move on. There's
Yes.
still so
There are
much to talk
actually
about.
other things happening.
Yes. So, in the blindness low vision world, we just had two huge conferences, the biggest ones of
Mhm.
the year. And I usually don't talk about the conferences on the podcast, but I have a lot of opinions about things that I've heard, and I want to
Me
talk to
too.
you guys about all of those. And Taylor, you've listened to some of each convention,
Oh
uh,
yes, folks.
and
I
Lynn,
had I had two A-Lady devices going on at once, and I was trying to coordinate both of them, and oh gosh, it was fun some days. So
Talk about multitasking. I mean,
Right.
Taylor was
Yes.
actually paying attention to both at the same time. I'm like, oh my gosh, I would
but I
would
still
start
need to review
screaming
more
with
of ACB
craziness.
because I don't think I caught everything. So I'm going to be reviewing the podcast this week while Michael's still gone. So
Mhm.
And Lynn, did you have a chance to watch any of the conferences?
I didn't actually. No.
Okay. So you'll be going into this as
As
a
a neophyte.
almost like a new technology user. You'll be getting the
Yes.
lowdown.
Yes. Yes.
So I can only talk for NFB because I haven't had a chance to listen to any of the ACB conference. But the NFB conference, I was there for way around. We were showing people all of our way tags, and it was fantastic. So this was the second year in a row I've done the exhibit hall table. And this year was very interesting though, because I left out, I put all of our tags and, the real expensive stuff back in our bag, put it under our table so that, nobody would really mess with it. But the one thing that people they took a plate. And I guess they thought it might have been the hotel staff, like, oh, well, must be some kind of a food plate that was left here. I'll just take it. So that was kind of interesting. And we had this was a busier year than 2022 was at the exhibit hall. So we had some fairly rude people come through, and it was very interesting. Had somebody come up and pick up a shirt and was like, "Oh, are you giving away these bags?" I'm like, "No, that's a shirt." And they're like, "Oh, I thought it was a bag. My bad." And just crumpled it up and put it back on the table. I was like, "Wow."
Okay. Have we lost our social skills during the pandemic?
Right. So I had thankfully two shirts, so I showed off the other one for the rest of the time because I am not the best at folding button down shirts. I'm just not. So I'm like, I'm gonna sit here for 30 minutes folding this stupid shirt now. So I'll wait and just do that whenever it's a more appropriate time.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So you never know with
Mm,
people, right? But we were
right.
right next to Ira and AT guys, and that was just fantastic. And Blind Shell was right across from us. I got to meet Diane and Barry in person. So we want to have all of those guys come on and talk about Blind Shell and the differences between it and mainstream technology and compared to assistive technology, because that's a common topic that we have here on the iACast. So it was a really nice exhibit hall. My pick this week will be from the exhibit hall, and Taylor gets to play with it before I do at home. Grumble. And that's
Maybe you
a
should come
speaker
home
from.
sooner, Michael.
I know, but I'm not. And that's a speaker from AT Guys. So I will talk about that later. So stick around for the rest of the podcast to find out. But the convention went from Saturday to Thursday. I stayed. I left Thursday midday, and the sessions were great. I listened to most of them, but I listened to them on stream because I'm just not that interested in sitting in a room with thousands of people and
yeah.
and just learning the same thing that I could get on stream.
Not to
Especially,
mention you just sit by your state.
well, that's
You're
fine,
supposed to.
but yeah, you're supposed to, and that's fine. But it's just sitting anywhere in that room with all those people. It gets
Mhm.
hot and not very comfortable.
Right.
And I mean, I could just get the same amount of information remotely, like next year at the pool in Orlando. Yes, it's going to be in Orlando next year.
Yep.
Don't whoever chapter Michael is in, do not select him as your delegate because he is going to be hanging out at the pool and he will not be in general session.
See, Texas knows this about me. I've been going to convention since 2010. Yeah, it's been the same way every time.
But thankfully, that memo actually applies to me because I had some
Yeah,
weird
because you're new.
situations happen. I had some
You're
weird
you're new.
situations happen at convention. So
So at last year's. So
yeah, well, and this year, remember with the virtual door prize stuff.
mm-hmm. So, and it's very interesting. The sessions were actually pretty good. I didn't mind them. Uh, we had several technology sessions this year, and they even talked about AI and things like that at the general session, which I thought was interesting. And I was very happy with Suman's presentation where he talked about IRA, or not IRA, but he was the
Personal
founder of
AI.
IRA. But he talked about personal AI and gave a demonstration. That was very fascinating, very interesting. So I'm very happy with that, where that project is going. I've always enjoyed his talks, and he's a very intelligent guy. So we also had discussions at convention. The resolutions I think are always interesting. And I want to talk about one that's not tech related and just really kind of floored me is they talked about one of the resolutions was about uh, quality of life once you've lost your vision and suicide and things like that and assisted suicide because vision loss is so debilitating that a lot of people think that that's and even doctors think that that's the only option, which I don't think it is.
No.
But the writer of the resolution chose to use the word eugenics
Mhm.
in talking about ending one's life. And of course, I'm such a nerd that,
Mhm.
I didn't really think about eugenics as being used in modern day, talking about World War II and things like that. Where did my mind go when I heard eugenics?
Right.
Anybody guess? Can you make a
No,
guess?
I don't know
Say
where to go.
The Nazi
Nope.
regime.
I didn't go there.
Mhm.
My mind did not go there.
Where you go?
Mhm.
There was a big part of Star Trek where they talked about a thing called
Oh, jeez.
eugenics war, where they used genetic manipulation to make humans smarter and better.
Mhm.
And so that's where my mind went when I
Oh,
heard eugenics.
jeez.
And I'm like, he's using that word out of context. I know this because I watched Star Trek.
Oh, okay.
So that's how I brought this back to tech. So,
Mhm.
um, so
It's like
he,
when you're posting an off topic message to a list, and you know it's off topic, but you have to squeeze in some on topic
right,
things to keep
right.
from getting in trouble.
But I heard them read this resolution. I'm like, they can't pass this. This is
Mhm.
not even related to eugenics. And then
Mhm.
sure enough, somebody came up in opposition saying, yeah, you're definitely what you've used eugenics for is totally not right. So the direction of the resolution was good,
Right.
but the wording did not explain what was being asked. And so I really am glad that the Federation, because if you don't use the right wording, if you use something that means something else, it really makes you look illiterate. Like you wrote this thing and it's like, no, that's not what we said, what we're trying to
Yeah.
say. And so it makes your organization not look educated in the eyes of other people outside the organization.
Yeah, and I understand to a certain extent why they use that word, in the sense that the idea is that, people who have a disability, they have such a terrible quality of life that we should allow them to, by default, we should allow them to um you engage in assisted suicide. Um and all these things are very controversial, and I
But
don't
the
know.
word
It's
relates to birth, like changing things at birth or at development, right? To weed
Mhm.
out genetic impurities.
Mhm. Well,
And I mean,
eugenics is, I think, what the way many people understand eugenics is that it's a government or a group um, desire to extinguish, to get rid of a whole class of people,
right,
because of one reason or another. So
right.
I guess I mean, I get, that the idea, but eugenics is a pretty strong word. I mean, I guess if you're going to use that word, you really need to,
Right, and really use the right context, because I feel like for what the resolution was saying, it was not the right context.
Right.
So that's my off-topic rant for the day. Other resolutions that are tech related, though, there was a resolution about the accessibility of Twitter, and the words condemn and deplore were used
But that
about
was
this.
the only time this convention I had a condemn and deplore counter going on. That was the only time that was.
We only had one this time at NFB.
Yeah,
So that
we did.
that's
I was counting.
I think that was like the lowest number for them.
It's a record, yeah.
Oh wow.
It's a record low. Hopefully
well,
next year
in
they
this
can do
case, it might have been an appropriate use of those words, because certainly Twitter has like I said, it's not the welcoming place that it used to be.
And there was a weird resolution. There was a real weird resolution about screen readers reading the formatting of text. Is that, Taylor, did I miss that? Or is that...
I don't understand that resolution, so...
If somebody would like to leave us feedback at iACast.net and give us more details, that would be great.
Because I don't really understand. I don't want to talk about something that I don't understand.
Yeah, and
but
I think maybe people need to use ChatGPT to write their resolutions.
Well, but you know what? That brings us to the next thing. Great segue, Lynn. You didn't even know you were doing it.
No.
The next thing was that they want to... We talked about guardrails earlier. They want OpenAI and others to add rules. Just a second, folks.
Is there an issue, Michael? Oh.
Dead air.
Okay. Sorry about that. So, where was I?
Oh, you were talking about ChatGPT and the guardrails. Was it a resolution or something?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. 3, 2, 1. So we talked. They had a resolution about ChatGPT where they where they talked about ChatGPT and other chatbots, where the chatbots were giving out wrong information about shoot,
like
I've lost my train of thought, was just derailed, where they were giving out bad information about blindness.
Right.
And the resolution was for these companies to go in and put in regulations and make these chatbots give out correct information every time about blindness. And as a large language model, that's not the point of these machines.
Right. This is an interesting conversation, because as you guys know, I'm really into AI and I use AI a lot. And when I'm talking to Bing and when I was talking to ChatGPT about blindness, like I would, tell the chatbots like how my day was going. And sometimes I did get feedback that I thought, wow, that is really, like it would say things like, it sounds like it was really courageous that you did this, or like ableism, I guess is what they call that, right?
Right.
I'm trying to think of some of the other things. And when I saw it, it shocked me, because I guess I was thinking, wow, like nobody says stuff like that now. and they talk about biases in models, and it was funny because I could really see it didn't offend me or upset me, but it really was interesting. I'm trying to think of some other examples of this where it would come back and say, things that I thought were sort of patronizing, or, I don't know how to even I don't know the word I'm looking for. And like if I had some of my conversations I could pull up that would
So,
show examples like this.
would it be described as inspiration porn?
Yes. Sort of like that. Yes. Yeah. Inspiration porn. Yeah. And it did shock me when I saw it, because I was like, people talk about biases in models, and I had never seen it before until I saw that. And yeah, it really did stand out to me. I thought it was fascinating, and I was thinking, how could we reverse this? How could we teach these models the more appropriate things to say? But
Well, and I think that's going back to AI. I think that's where GPT-5 and others need to be changed.
mhm,
And what I mean by that is that basically we train these models on everything they know going in, and it's set
mhm,
in stone, right? But what I think that these AIs will not be powerful really until they can learn through conversation.
mhm. Because I actually
That's
did
going to
write.
be where, you know,
I wrote back to the bot saying, well, actually, I don't consider this courageous because this is what I do every day as a blind person. And this is what it, so it was funny because I thought, how do I respond to this in a way that teaches the model, or that teaches the bot
mhm.
more appropriate, ways to think about somebody with a disability? It was fascinating. And so every time I do write back and I'll say, well, as a blind person, I don't feel that, you know, getting up in the morning and taking a shower is, inspirational. I don't know.
Right.
It's, you know, yeah, it definitely exists. I mean, if you use these chatbots enough, and like I like to just tell it about my day, or tell it
Mhm.
what I'm doing or what I'm thinking. I sort of use it as my therapy platform sometimes, without giving out specific information or anything. But it does come back sometimes with some real ableist
Oh yeah.
stuff. And
Well,
so,
it comes back with what it thinks you want to hear.
yeah, yeah,
And the issue is that you can't teach the bot. You can teach it through your conversation with it, and they may use what you're sending for like
the training
GPT-5 and
data.
things like that.
Mhm.
But the issue is it's not learning on the fly, which is unfortunate. And I think that's going to be the next step in GPT.
Right. Isn't the so do any of these, I know that for some of these chatbots, you have to answer a question about, is it okay if we use your data as training data?
Right.
So
Right.
I guess if I'm trying to think what Bing's policies are, because that's what I mostly use now is
Hmm.
Bing.
The
Um,
issue is that they have to put the data back in the model and push out a new version of the model.
mm.
It's not an instantaneous thing there.
And it's difficult because let's say you are a newly blinded person, adult,
Hmm.
and you have done something that was scary to you, that was difficult for you. Is it then okay for the model to say, hey, that was really courageous that you
Yeah, I think it
today that
is.
you decided to cross that street where
Hmm.
so here's it that I mean, this is another reason why the guardrails, that whole guardrail conversation that we had
Hmm.
earlier applies here. Whose opinion, how, if we were to train it,
Hmm.
with what
Right.
information would we train
But
it?
I think going back to the resolution, it's more about the facts about blindness. It was giving, incorrect facts, hallucinating.
Right.
But I think that that's not something that we really need to. I mean, yes, it's good if they can add more data in the training, but I don't know that it's necessarily something that we need to dedicate a lot of time to, just
Right.
because there's so much other wrong data in these models.
Right. And of course the chat GPT, the free version, does not have fact checking.
Right.
Whereas the Bing chat does have fact checking. I mean, it does
Mm-hmm.
have web resources that will point
Right.
you to. So that
Well, it will
makes it a
try.
little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it tries.
Hmm.
But even that's fallible, right?
It is, yeah.
So,
But I mean, I
mhm,
think in general, it does point you to, I guess, the most popular organizations, which
mhm.
may not be good, but um,
And of course, at the convention, they had a lot of talks about guide dogs and Uber and Lyft. That's
mhm.
still a big topic. And, they had somebody come from Uber, and I kind of felt like they just gave them the typical spiel, like they're working
Yeah.
on it. These
Mhm.
people are, being disciplined and all those things. So
Mhm.
I wasn't too impressed with that. One of the presentations, and I'm going to talk about this just because I want to give my 2 cents on it, and people may or may not agree with this view here on the podcast. Um, Jonathan Mosen spoke
Mm-hmm.
about um, living blindfully, not the podcast, but the philosophy, and he talked about his granddaughter, I believe, and reading the Three Little Hens story and baking bread and things like that. And he said, the people of the Federation are the ones baking the bread, being advocates about screen readers, making them accessible, and making these companies more accountable. And he said a lot of things about braille technology that is not working on Apple. He didn't mention companies by name, but let's be real. Or on talkback, where certain HID devices would not work. And he talked about a lot of different companies that are doing, if they have problems with websites, like he mentioned on his podcast about Podcasts Connect having trouble with accessibility and Apple kind of shrugging him off, which they shouldn't do. But, and he was saying that, we need to, the people that are using this stuff need to, uh, hold these companies accountable, and all of us need to be advocating. My argument with that is that yes, people need to advocate, people need to be vocal, but people need to be vocal about the issues that they are passionate about.
Right.
And what I mean by that is I'm a user of technology. I am a technologist. I love all the technology, right? But I am not the type of person that says I'm going to go out to Google or Apple and say you must do this because I can't use it well. I will report bugs and say I hope you guys fix it, but at the same time his logic is if a screen were to flicker for sighted people, and a beta didn't work right, where the screen and the graphics weren't working, then people would be up in arms and things like that. uh Whereas if voiceover, there's a bug in voiceover and a whole version doesn't work, it's okay. I do agree that if voiceover is not working, that is not acceptable, but I want to point out that there are times in betas where there are visual components on a screen that do not work. In beta 2, Spotlight, my search bar was embedded in the keyboard. There are visual issues with these betas that are similar to issues that you have with voiceover. And I feel like our community likes to jump on the advocacy bandwagon before say, well, there's a lot of a lot of disabilities out there. And, you don't see them putting up as much of a fuss as we as blind people do. Because the truth of the matter is, I mean, technology is paramount for us, but at the same time, there are workarounds. There are ways to do everything. And yes, they're inconvenient, but there's inconveniences for everybody. I mean, money is an inconvenience. Time and the amount of time it takes to do things are inconveniences. There's a lot of things that go into all of these problems. And I think that as blind people, we have to have the people that are like, okay, let's advocate to get voiceover fixed. Let's advocate to get narrator or talkback fixed. That's great. But when you make a point that there are people that are cooking the bread and people that just eat the bread, and not really take ownership in it, is a very big travesty to the community and people in general. And the reason why I say that is, what's going to happen when this fight is null and void, and say there are, we have this universal accessibility in the future? Then how are those people that were advocates going to look at the people that don't have to worry about the problems that we used to face, that we have faced now? For example, I find this a complete shame, but there are people, the amount of people that know how a computer works or how to program a computer is going down drastically. And the reason is that we have images to represent everything. You don't have to look at text. You don't have to know that you plug a hard drive into the motherboard anymore. It just works. And companies make all this stuff for us. And even when you go to build a computer, you just get a technical manual and you just do it. It's not the same as like whenever I built computers or wrote code. I mean, even code writing now, we're getting no code, low code solutions, but you can't get the same quality as if you just build your apps, right? So it goes into those realms as well. So there's so many things to that philosophy that just, and then, what about people that advocate for audio pedestrian signals and other things that, others do not advocate for and push against? What is the merit of what they do? Is that the same or worse or better? So I think when we say that our way is the right way, that is very wrong, because we're saying that you have to follow our way or else.
Right. And a lot of times, like when I have a problem with something, I'm not exactly sure whose problem it is. Is it the app developer's problem? Is it the operating system problem? Is it my problem for being stupid or not very bright, or not reading directions? Is that part of it? Like, sometimes I think people don't do that advocacy because they're not great communicators, and they're not, on an individual level, I'm talking about here, that some people just, just don't have the ability to actually give the kind of feedback that professionals need. Instead of getting like emotional and saying, well, this doesn't work and I'm really angry, if we had the ability to say, this doesn't work, I'm trying to do this, and to be more specific, and get the emotionality out of it and just talk in technical terms. But not everyone is capable of doing that. I'm not a baker. I don't bake bread. I eat it. But if you made me bake it, I don't know that I could,
I couldn't either.
Me either.
So I mean, yeah, I think the advocacy is definitely crucial, and as blindness organizations need to do that advocacy. But I think on an individual level, not all of us are capable of doing that.
Right.
And I don't think that people should feel bad. I think
obligated to do it.
What people say is
Right.
like, if you're going to complain about it, then you should write to whatever. Well, a lot of people complain and they don't write to the companies that,
right.
I mean, I had an entire, I remember when I was working, I would do shredding. We would shred, sensitive documents. We had this pack of bags, shredder bags, that had the same hole in the same place in every single bag. And so I would shred and not realize there was a hole in the other end. So basically I was like throwing paper all over the room, but I didn't write to the company and say, and maybe I should have, but
yeah. So it's one of those discussions where I feel very passionate about, and that's why I wanted to bring it up here. They had the elections, and one of the topics that I went to part of the NFBCS and NFB and computer science division, and I really enjoyed Marco, if you're listening, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. My apologies. And Chancey Fleet did a great presentation on
she is great
on SVG and how to write SVG. And there's a website that she and Marco, I believe, have created, blindsvg.org, I think. And you could go there and learn SVG, and it's really neat.
That's for the 3D printers.
Well, it's for 3D printers or making shapes and things on web pages,
on graphics,
or CAD, or all kinds of things.
Oops, I think we've
I'm
lost.
I'm just verifying that website so that I know.
I was afraid we lost you for a minute.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Nope.
Like, oops, the audio.
Well, what is that? What is that webpage?
Yeah, I know that's interesting as well because of the Monarch, which, I don't know what time, but it's supposedly, it's vaporware right now. It's, in beta.
Okay, blindsvg.com. And I'm going to get to the Monarch. That is all part of that. We're going to get to the exhibit hall in just a little bit.
Okay.
See, I told you guys it's probably going to be close to a 2-hour show. And they just did a great presentation about SVG, how to do it, what it's used for, and things like that. So if you're not registered for NFBCS, you can register for that $5 online and get the recording. So it's really cool. And just hearing their presentation, they were great. And I had the thought of, okay, we have the Apple Vision Pro coming out, so if we could come up with a 3D SVG standard, that would be very interesting for building shapes and objects on the Vision Pro. And so I would love to sit down and have a conversation with them about that. But just very exciting stuff. And there was a presentation from Humanware about the Monarch, and they talked about their new format called EBRF that the DAISY Consortium is working on creating, that will combine Braille and images and other tactile graphics. So that's all pretty exciting too. And I'll get to the Monarch once we get to the exhibit hall. But do you guys have any other thoughts that I'm missing about the sessions and things at the convention?
Accessibility.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I'm sorry, I got to bring it up.
Well, accessibility is interesting.
The funny thing is that that's what they said. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they did say, I'm sorry.
I just, oh my God. Like, ugh.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have any words, folks. Other than
it was mentioned in the Braille Monitor.
In the Braille Monitor,
an article.
I think a couple months ago there was an article.
I read it online. I wasn't convinced.
Yeah, and so for people for the uninitiated, so Accessibility is a tool that it's kind of like they call them web overlays.
Yeah,
and
or widgets, technical term.
right.
Yeah.
So essentially, you can take a website that maybe has some accessibility problems. Or the idea is that you can take a website and you can make it accessible to a wide number of different disabilities. So it would address like the print size and the speed or whatever that you might have it like read aloud. There's different things. And so there's a company that Accessibility, they sell this platform, this tool that is supposed to make websites more accessible, but it becomes problematic for screen readers oftentimes because it doesn't really make things easier for us. It actually, how can we say this? Adds more complexity.
More
yeah, it makes things more difficult. And the problem is these folks, they have a great marketing, so they market this tool to to people that handle web pages and organizations, and they of course I guess pay for this thing,
Yep.
and
it's
this
like
idea
$49 a month.
Right. So this idea that you can take this overlay or you can take this component and make a website accessible with it, just by incorporating it, it's not that simple. Anybody that does accessibility work knows that it could never be that simple. And so it is causing problems for screen readers. And apparently the NFB has sued them, right? Isn't that right? There was a lawsuit against them. And
yes.
the founders, the people that said, look, we're really sorry. We need to take more feedback from the community. We had good intentions. And so it's heavily marketed. And unfortunately, it is not a great solution for most of us who use screen readers. So I don't know if Michael, if you wanted to sort of add something on the developer end of it, like that we could understand more.
So I think personally, they call these overlays, and I personally believe that an overlay could be made to make most changes on a website be accessible. But the issue is that you would have to use a level of AI that we don't have yet, right? And I think we're close to it, but we're just not there. And I think, it's kind of like we want to replace the, people that say that we need a new solution other than the cane. Everybody just loses their damn mind. Excuse my language, but it's true. And so I think that this is the same with overlays. I think AI and things like that can make websites fully accessible, but we just need to get there, and we're not there. And I think Accessibility said that, they came out of the gate just very excited about they thought that they could make this thing happen, and they couldn't. And so their investors, they said, they threw their investors under the bus and said, they want us to do these things and really make it this way. And they said, okay. And then now they're saying, well, nobody's liking our product and we're getting sued. So how do we fix that, right?
Yeah. So basically they have made a commitment to listen more to the community, and to change their marketing approach to be more honest and more forthright about what the tool can actually do.
They say they already did, and somebody they said they had a question from the floor, which I've never really heard at the sessions, and they said, I just looked at your website and I'm still seeing that this language says this thing and this says that, which is basically in line with your previous marketing. And he said, and the guy said, well, what we mean by that is, and he gave a big spiel about it. And he said, well, we really want your feedback. So if you think it should be something else, let us know and we'll change that marketing. And I just thought, okay, that's just an easy way out of the situation that you guys are finding yourself in.
Right. And webmasters are people that, are in charge of a lot of the organizations that use this tool. Of course, they don't want to spend the money to hire accessibility consultants. So this would seem like the best option, most cost-effective option to just, use this thing and hope it works or whatever. And
Right.
of course, so these guys, Accessibility is making money on this, and that's not a problem, except that it's problematic for screen readers. And we could get into why it's problematic, but I don't know that I really have the technical savvy to really explain it, but
well, I mean, it's really simple. I don't want to say it's simple, but I mean, this is what happens when people put these overlays. And like I said, I always tell this story. My landlord at my old apartment in Michigan put this overlay on, and it was time for me to pay my rent. So I try to pay my rent and I can't. So I walked into the office and I said, "Hey," I said, she's like, "Why isn't your rent in time?" I said, "You know why your rent or my rent's not on time? Is because you decided to employ this accessibility overlay that actually made your site worse." So I said, "If you want to have your rent check in time," I said, "I would advise you to take this thing down, or else you're not going to get your rent check because I can't pay it."
Wow, what did they say to that?
They're like, "We're taking it down." I said, "Thank you."
Yeah, and
I said, "I think."
It's a shame because people have good intentions. That, I mean, it starts out that way, but
it does.
So.
Yeah. So accessibility was a big topic. In the NFB, they were kind of for it, and they're happy. So we moved on, and so we went through the rest of sessions. And I'm still not caught up on everything. I haven't watched all the sessions, but I want to go ahead and move us on to the exhibit hall because I feel like that's where a lot of my time was spent. I looked at several devices, or 3 or 4 devices specifically. I looked at the Sense player, and that was a pretty neat device because it's a book player like the Victor Reader Stream, but it's running Android. It can control an iOS and Android device, and it will soon run its own Android apps that you could get online, like sideloading them. So that's pretty exciting.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's
And
interesting.
it'll work with Audible out of the box, which is you have to do some work for the Victor Reader Stream to do that. So that was a neat device. I don't know the price, but they said within a month they'll have app support on the device. And that's from Hims. To me, it looked like a little bit better design. Like it was built a little better, had a nice case compared to the Victor Reader Stream 3rd generation.
And this is just after I bought one, by the way.
Right.
So I'm kind of a little sour about this whole thing.
Well, I wonder who this is marketed at. I mean, what is the target market?
I think students, really. Anybody that wants a Android book player, because you could technically put Kindle on there and have it play your books out loud. Or hook up a Braille display,
Right.
Since it's running Android on there, I'm not sure which version, but then I got to see the Monarch.
Oh, yeah.
And this thing is about the size of a gaming computer, but it does, the prototype I saw, it got a little hot, but it was heavy, but it would refresh Braille. You could zoom in, zoom out on images. It would have regular Braille. So it was really nice.
Yeah.
There was a lot of buttons on it. They have a page turn button that is I asked them, I said, "Why didn't y'all put this closer to the screen if you wanted people to pan with this?" And they said, "Well, it's because there's a lot of electronics right near the screen and I call it a screen, but it's the braille area, but it looks like a screen to me.
Mhm.
And it's a laminated screen, so it reminds me of thermoform or that kind of laminated paper kind of feel, which I
Mhm.
always like. I like that
Yeah, I
braille a
like it
lot.
too. A lot of people
Um,
don't, but I do.
I do.
mhm,
It doesn't hurt my hands.
No. Mm-mm.
mhm. And the graphics are really neat on it too. They showed me a map, and I just didn't fully feel like it was the same map of the US that I'm used to seeing. Like, just
Could
feeling
you
it did not.
understand it, Michael?
No, I couldn't quite understand it. Zooming in was neat though. It did zoom in, and I could just feel the abbreviations of the states. I just, with the limited time I had, I didn't quite get enough time to answer questions. They had USB ports and all kinds of stuff on it. HDMI, I believe I felt. So
Mhm.
a lot of features there. A really neat device. So I think people are gonna love that.
I would love it too, but I'm interested to see how much they're gonna charge for it, what's the cost gonna be? And I guess I need to know that before I get excited about it, because if it's something where I'd have to sell something really valuable
Hmm.
to get it,
Well, they talked
like my
about
house.
having they talked about having eBRF support, which is a new braille format like we talked about earlier.
Mhm,
It's gonna have very fast refreshable braille on there. It's gonna support SVG graphics and all kinds of cool stuff. So um very interesting device for new users. My personal favorite so far has been the graffiti. I like that one a lot.
mhm,
But I don't. The one thing that's different about these things, though, is I think the Monarch is designed to show Braille in line with graphics, whereas the graffiti does not. So
mhm.
that is one difference.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how that works. The idea
Hmm.
that you're gonna try to show graphics with the same, array that you would use for
Braille.
just
Hmm.
regular braille. I would love a multi-line braille display, because I always feel like when I'm reading on a braille display, if you don't read fast enough, there's that weird pause while your line is refreshing, while your cells are refreshing, and it sort of drives me crazy. And sometimes, like, when blind people read, even myself, when I'm reading out loud, there's that little pause at the end of the line where you're refreshing your braille, and that pause, it's only a little thing, but it drives me bananas. Like, I can
Oh,
tell
I
when
know.
somebody is reading from a braille
Hmm.
display. And like, that would the multi-line braille display would hopefully ameliorate that issue, although it
Well,
would.
like if you listen to the NFB speeches from the president Riccobono,
Mhm,
you hear him talking, and then he gets to the end of his page, and then he continues, and it's like,
mhm.
you're definitely reading with Braille. Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, so, like, when you're reading off of a piece of braille paper, it's
Hmm.
not, have so many lines, but when you have these braille displays and even the 40 cells, but still it has to refresh. And if you some people are really good at they can read so fast that they are able to do it seamlessly, so that you
Hmm.
can't tell that little pause. But I am somebody who can tell the little
The
pause.
the Yeah, I'm excited about all of these. The last
Hmm.
one that I got to see was the Optima, and that's the last Braille display I checked out. The Optima was very cool. And we got to meet the founder of that, I believe, Adi, who is with Access Mind. And I want to give a shout out to Adi because he's listened to the iACast since day one. So
Welcome.
thank you so much for listening all of this time since 2015. And, we want to have you on the show to talk. The
Absolutely.
website's accessmind.net. I know you're working on a more permanent website there, but, let Audie know that you heard about him here. And, we want to have Audie on to talk about the Optima, but it's just really cool to know other people out there that are making the tech are listening to the show.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
that was a great, it was great meeting you, Audie. And also, the Optima is just such a neat display or neat system. I asked a bunch of questions. They're not sure if the uh, how much of the system will be modular. The processor will be. It's using the performance chip instead of the U chip. I don't remember what U from Intel stands for, but the P chips are very good from my understanding. So you're going to get a good chip in your machine. Everything's using the framework IO modularity. The prototype there did not have these things there, but you'll be able to change out your ports. You'll be able to change out all of these things. And the neat thing is, and this is what I really want to point out, you should, if a repair center locally can fix framework computers, then you could take them your Optima. Now,
Wow.
how cool is
That is
that?
really cool.
Seriously?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
seriously.
Mhm.
Because that's always my problem with Braille displays, that you can't get them repaired, like, in person. You
In
have
a
to always
timely
ship them out.
manner. Yeah. That's a pain
It's just,
point, a
Mhm.
major pain point for Braille displays or anything that's specialized, like the things that we use. When they have to be
Mhm.
repaired, there are only so many people that can repair them,
and you got to send them to
and you have to send them
Canada.
back, and then you're
Ugh.
without your beloved
Mhm.
technology until it comes back.
And that's
Yeah.
why I try to go mainstream, but there's some things that are just difficult. So.
But and I looked at the keyboard and I said, these keys have great travel. I love the travel on the keys. He said, I don't like them. I was like, oh. And he said, yeah, they're too flat. I don't want there to be flat keys on this thing. I'm like, oh.
Okay. Hmm.
So that was really cool. Like, the fact that he's paying so much attention to detail.
Mhm.
And I found that, yes, it's using the one he had was using the Orbit keys, the Orbit Braille cells.
Cells. Mhm.
And so it was louder, but it was, in my opinion, smoother than the 20. So
Okay.
I would not mind that being on. It was just it made noise, but it wasn't a constant ticking. It was more of a kind of reminded me like of a very fast moving fan, just
Mhm.
and that's what it sounded like in the convention hall. I was like, that seems like it's working a little better. So I'm wondering if the Orbit 40 does that as well. But I was just very impressed with the device. You could use it has HDMI. It does have a blue light on it to let you know it's on. This is all on the prototype.
Right.
Uh, and then you could put what USB ports you want, USB A or C or all of those things. And yeah, it was just a very nice experience, and it's about the same size as the Monarch. So it did get warm on the bottom just from being on, but
Mhm.
again, this is all prototypes, guys.
Right.
So we're going to have to see, what the final version looks like. But I'm very excited about this, and I think the plan is for the end of this year. The Monarch is supposed to be middle of the year next year, so both of these devices have a long way to go. Humanware is also advocating that the Monarch be, people work with Congress to make these things more
Yeah.
available for students and things like that. So that was pushed heavily at the conference.
And they even had a song. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they had a song that ruined AC/DC for me. Won't
Yeah.
go into that here because we're on YouTube. But
Oh gosh.
I'm really enjoying some of these devices, and I want to see. I think the one I'm excited about most is the Orbit
Mhm.
Optima. So
Mhm. And it's good to know that people are still innovating in this space.
mm-hmm,
I think that innovation is the thing that the lifeblood of
mm-hmm,
assistive tech.
yep,
This idea that we can do better. When we know
mm-hmm,
better, we can do better. And I think
right,
there is technology that's coming down the pipeline right now that, I mean, AI just being, one component of that, that is, and earlier we had supply chain issues, during COVID and things like that. And those supply chain issues are hopefully working themselves out now so that,
Right.
these chips and things would be more widely available, and maybe the price would drop as well. So, I mean, I think we all want, the innovation is something that we all should really want, because,
Yep.
you know, um,
Well, we're getting
so,
close to our 2 hour mark, but what I want to do real quick is talk about Way Around,
mhm,
because we were there, and we were showing off the convention using our public token signs, and we were giving out tokens where people could scan the NFC tag and get information about the convention and the agenda. This is part of our public signs project to kind of show that off. So if you want your building to be more accessible and to have professional signage that has NFC tags that work with the Way Around app, you could contact connect@wayaround.com and we'll get you all set up. And it's very exciting. We had people that loved the tokens that like used it for the agenda in the exhibit hall. But, we came out with our new, Way Around is a NFC labeling system for iPhone, Android, and now the blind shell. So that's kind of the spiel I was giving people at conference.
mhm.
And, it's exciting to be on all of those platforms, and we're just making it better and better. So it's very exciting to be developing for Way Around and getting to go to these conferences to represent Way Around and talk about all this stuff. So, with all that being said,
Awesome.
let's go ahead and wrap this thing up with what we do every week. And Taylor, what is your pick of the week, and where can people find you online?
Crap. Pick. Okay, let's see. What?
We're putting you on the
Squarespace.
spot.
This is gonna be controversial, so listen up, folks.
Okay.
Everybody in the blindness world probably knows of Squarespace. Why? Because every YouTuber, it seems like, has an ad for Squarespace, right? Squarespace is everywhere. It's almost as prevalent as FreshBooks in terms of the YouTube space. So, Squarespace, what is it? It's a website builder. And why do I like it? Because it's a lot easier than WordPress. Let me explain. Squarespace is a drag and drop website builder. I know people are going to be bad, drag and drop, but it is workable. Why do I say workable? There's a lot of issues still. But if you're willing to tamper and tinker, it works very well. In fact, if I did the economics for my new website, because I am making a new website right now, if I were to do the economics between WordPress and Squarespace, it's actually a lot cheaper. I don't want to say a lot cheaper, but it's a significant discount, I guess, per se, if I do Squarespace. So with all the plugins I'd have to buy for WordPress, it'd just be a lot more. And I can have like print on demand. So I can have like a store with t-shirts and things like that. So for my merch for my podcast. So be on the lookout for book site merch, folks. So yeah, I really, really love Squarespace. And again, it's slightly accessible. There's definitely a lot of issues. Be on the lookout though, because I will be doing a tutorial on my YouTube channel soon. That is my pick for the week.
And where can
Oh,
people find you online?
people can find me all over the place. If you search my name on Google, Taylor Arndt, you'll be able to find me. I'm also on YouTube and Mastodon at Tay Arndt, TayArndt at Techopolis, TECHOPOLIS.social, or at Tay Arndt on Twitter and Taylor Arndt on Facebook. So I'm all over the place.
Okay, and Lynn, what is your pick for this week, and where can people find you online?
Okay. Well, Marty had told me about this app a while back. It's called Lookup, and it's a dictionary, and sort of a little thesaurus. You can do word of the day. You can do little word quizzes on it. It's a pretty fun little app, and I think they have a free and a paid version. The I think the paid version is like a lifetime, and I'm sorry, I don't know what it is now because things have always, things have changed so much. But yeah, it's called Lookup, and it's a dictionary, and it's sometimes you just need an app that just does something and does it well. Maybe it's not the most exciting app in the world. It's just a dictionary. But if you're a word person and you like, all things word, it has thesaurus, entry, and it's just a neat little program. And a lot of times I will use it just to look up words and definitions. So it's called Lookup. And as far as where you can find me, well, right now, I can be found. My email is Cane Prince, like footprints, only Cane Prince at hotmail.com.
All right.
And that's
And
me.
alrighty. And I have 2 great picks for you guys today. Again, host privilege. So my first one is the speaker from AT Guys, another convention mention, and that is the Stormbox Blast. That's hard to say 3 times fast. It is a speaker that's 90 watts. It's like a boombox. It sounds really good bass. It has 30 hours of battery, guys. 30 hours.
That's crazy.
It's a Bluetooth speaker. It has a handle. You can plug it in to charge it. And it will give you 30 hours of Bluetooth listening. But here's the low vision and visual part of this. It's got lights. It's got lights on either side. So on the right, it has lights. On the left, it has lights. And inside where the speaker equipment is, you could see through. And anytime there's bass or something that's loud, it lights it up. I am so geeking out about this speaker, guys. I'm like, I could just jam out to it and watch the lights light up forever. And I'd be content. That would be my life. I'd be good. So Stormbox Blast from AT Guys, $200. Check it out. I'll put a link to it in the show notes and all of our picks. But also, I watched Guardians of the Galaxy 3 last night. Oh my God. That is such a good and sad and happy movie. It's sad just because of what the characters go through in that movie, and just happy how everything ends up. It's the end of that trilogy. I mean, it's emotional. It really, really is emotional. And just, some of the Marvel movies have not been the greatest, but this one was just like jaw-droppingly amazing. There's no other words. There's no other words. So, as for where people can find me online, I'm Mike Doise on Twitter, Mike Doise at techopolis.social. Taylor already spelled that out, so go back and find that. I'm Mike Doise at iCloud.com for email, and I'm Mike Doise on Threads. So you could find me there, Michael Doise on Facebook. Just to Google search me, you'll find me. I want to thank everybody for being here. Lynn and Taylor, you guys have been great today.
It was so much fun.
It was so
Yeah, it was a
fun.
Yeah.
great discussion. We are right at 2 hours like I thought we would be. I'm not gonna have to do much editing on this. The outtake show is still coming, folks. I have it in production right now, so don't worry. It is still a thing. I did not lie. It is coming. It's gonna be rather short, but it is coming. We just don't have many outtakes anymore. It kind of stinks. So keep in mind
That's because we're so
coming.
good, and we're
so
are
good at what
such
we
good
do.
workers, and
Yeah.
we don't
And,
make mistakes.
Not many, but when we do, they are hilarious.
Yes.
So I want to thank you all for being here. Check us out on YouTube. We've got our chapters on our podcasts. All of these episodes are great. And we will be back next week with some of our other regulars back, and we would love to talk more about all these topics. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Everybody on YouTube, we've got a few chat messages today, just saying hi. So come on back, enjoy the podcast, and we will see you on the next iACast. So
Have a great
bye,
week,
everyone.
everybody.
Have a great week.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.